Did you know that there are other Steam Deck-like devices that are available right now for you to play native Windows games on and actually may be better than a Steam Deck? Well, we got two of them, and our first review is right now. Portable gaming systems have been around since the 70s. You had that Milton Bradley Microvision as the first handheld gaming system that actually used interchangeable cartridges. But it wasn't until the late 80s when Nintendo released the Game Boy that things kind of changed. With a plethora of handheld systems in the 90s like the Game Gear, the Turbo Express, the Atari Lynx, things kind of peaked in 2004 when Sony introduced the PSP or the PlayStation Portable. Man, I miss the PSP, and I really miss devices built to run AAA games. Fast forward 13 years, wow, has it really been 13 years? Nintendo was at it again with the Nintendo Switch in 2017, and now we have the latest entry from Steam and the Steam Deck. Oh, the Steam Deck. We're still waiting for ours, and probably many of you are as well. And look out for a review from us when it does, maybe, hopefully. Anyway, all of these systems serve their purpose, except for maybe the Atari Lynx. I'm not really sure what that one was all about. But we are in 2022 and technology has advanced so far that we're carrying around portable computers in our pockets with the cell phones we currently have. But what if we could easily, or semi-easily, carry around a full-fledged portable computer that handles Windows and allows you the ability to even game on it? Well, when OneNote set out to change the industry, they wanted to put something in your hands that was easily portable, powerful, and beautiful. That's right, we're talking about the OneXPlayer from OneNotebook. Haven't heard of it? Well, neither had we, until we got antsy and wanted a Steam Deck like now, and found out there are companies who already make these devices. Now, before we get into the goodness of the OneXPlayer, we want you to know that we decided that this device was worth reviewing, so we bought it with our own money. And at $1,600? Well, let's just hope that my lack of patience was worth it. Okay, so let's dive in. At first glance, it looks like a glorified Nintendo Switch that's considerably bigger than the OLED version of the Switch 2. It's coming in at a whopping 8.4-inch display that is 2560 by 1600 resolution, which is a 2.5K IPS screen. It screams beauty. The pixel density is an astounding 358 ppi, or pixels per square inch. Let me be clear, every time I travel with this thing, people crowd around. Of course, the first question is that the Steam Deck? I didn't even know they were out yet. And then after seeing it and playing it, they want to know how the heck they can get one of these things. Now you're comparing the OneXPlayer to like the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch OLED is a 7-inch OLED screen coming in at 1280 by 720p and around 237 ppi. If you think the Switch OLED has a great screen, and it does, the screen on the One X is much better. And the fact that it runs a full version of Windows 11 makes the One X have a leg up on anything out there, including the Steam Deck. There is no software abstraction layer to make your games run like on the Steam Deck, which runs Linux, and basically it's as simple as if it works on Windows, it works on this device. Now, we mentioned that the screen is 8.4 inches. The closest thing we can compare the screen size to is the iPad mini, which is an 8.3-inch screen. So take your iPad mini, pop on some Nintendo Joy-Con looking remotes that are all integrated into the body, and you have a rather large handheld PC. So let's chat about the remotes on the One X. They're not remotes, they're attached. But in all honesty, the joysticks are analog. The familiar A, B, X, Y, and cross keypad are laid out quite nicely. It's just a classic Xbox controller design with the right joystick under A, B, X, and Y, and then the D-pad underneath the left joystick. In fact, the buttons mirror the Xbox controller with the hamburger button and everything. Now you see multiple buttons on the front of the OneXPlayer, such as the turbo button, which will jump the OneXPlayer from 20 watts TDP to 28 watt TDP for a little bit more oomph in those games that need a little extra power burst. And believe it or not, you can actually see it make a difference. Above that is a keyboard button. This will bring up the on-screen keyboard that is just, it's okay. It's not the greatest, but a one-button press for a keyboard to pop up is kind of nice. I just wish it was as nice as the native on-screen keyboard built into Windows for this. In fact, I wish they just used that one. Now, staying on the keyboard for a minute, if you press and hold it until you get a chime, much like plugging in a mouse per se, this is the sound we're talking about, the left joystick will actually control the mouse cursor that pops up with the right joystick and scrolling so you can scroll through web pages or whatever you're looking at. It's really neat and it's kind of a cool feature. You basically get mouse with your control. Other buttons include a desktop button in the lower left that brings you to a desktop no matter what program or game you're in. a start button for pausing the game you're in to bring up the menu or to change settings, and another button in the upper left that is a /return button that is very game specific. And it mirrors pretty much the functionality you have when you're using an Xbox controller with your Windows PC. Now the front-facing speakers are nice, and they sound okay. Now they're not the greatest, but they do the job for the device. And the vibration motors for the joysticks are quite nice. You look at the top of the device and we see bumpers and triggers. The trigger is an analog linear trigger, so pressing it feels great and solid. The bumpers also feel solid with single presses, and we found no issues with either. So how is it for comfort? I mean, that's the key thing. I find this thing pretty comfortable to play and use, and the buttons for me are in a very comfortable position. But much like when we say using keyboards and peripherals, how comfortable it is and how functional it is a very personal thing. And everyone defines what comfortable is very differently. Now there was a lot of attention here from both the engineering and the UX team, which means user experience, for the button layouts and what you need to be able to reach on the device. I mean, where it gets awkward is when you gotta use it for other stuff other than gaming. But pop open the kickstand and pop a mouse and keyboard in. Remember, you just plug them into the USB-A, and that whole thing melts away instantly. The kickstand is awesome, and if you have a little portable mouse and keyboard, it makes the perfect pairing for installing a new game or doing some light maintenance on this device. Okay, continuing with the tour. On the top, do we not only see two areas for cooling, but we also see one USB 3.0 Type A port, which is where you can plug in a mouse or keyboard, two USB 3.2 Type C ports, with one showing data transfer for devices and the other for power. But we found that both of them can actually charge the device. You get one 3.5-inch millimeter audio port, and you also get one micro SD card slot with up to support for 512 gigabytes. A nice array of ports and support, and perfect for what you need for a device like this. Now if we turn the device over and we go to the back, we can see that there are two buttons near the right side controller. So when you're holding the OneXPlayer, it's easy to turn the volume up and down using your right index finger. I use those things all the time, and on some of their other form factors, they've actually taken that away and I miss it. The built-in kickstand, which is also on the back, is a nice metal kickstand that is sturdy, effective, and very unlike the cheap kickstand that came with the original Nintendo Switch that broke even if you looked at it. And finally, on the back, in the middle of the device, you have your power button. Now, speaking of power button, the one thing I did want to mention is the suspend mode that does exist with this and is actually pretty cool. So if you just push that button once on the back, the whole system actually goes to a suspend state and your battery basically stays clean, good to go, even in the middle of the game. Just push it again, it pops on right in the middle, and you're basically able to resume. It's pretty cool. There's some bugs depending on the game that you play when it re-goes to resolution, but for the most part, I actually also really like this feature, and it's pretty neat. And that is the outside of the OneXPlayer. It's a heavy device, and holding it for playing games for a long period of time does take its toll on you. I have a tendency to just pop it on a counter sometimes and have the kickstand out, and it seems to just be in the right position for playing games that way. One thing I am gonna say, if you like this kind of content and you want us to cover more portable devices, then make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and let us know down in the comments, because that's the only way we know, and we try to find things like this that you might be interested in. So do us a favor, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when we post videos just like this at any point. Now back to the review. Now there are many configurations of the OneXPlayer, and now there is the OneXPlayer Mini, in which we'll have a review on that really soon, as Tom's actually flying out here to get his giant hands on it. Now as long as he doesn't put his toes on it, we should be absolutely fine. Please, Tom, put your toes on it. But what we're gonna focus on for this review are the setups you can get with the OneXPlayer 8.4-inch right now. Now there's an Intel and AMD platform for the OneXPlayer, and the Intel version comes with an Intel Core i7 1195 G7 CPU with integrated Intel Iris Xe graphics. One thing worth noting here, because of Intel and Thunderbolt, you can actually use an eGPU, and we have that in our Mini, and we'll show you how that works, which actually makes this device a little bit more powerful and a little bit more flexible. Now there's also the AMD platform for the OneXPlayer that you can choose up to 3 different variants of the CPU. You can get the Ryzen 7 4800U, the Ryzen 7 5700U, and then finally the one we have, the Ryzen 7 5800U. All the Ryzen U series processors have 8 cores and 16 threads, along with an AMD Radeon Vega 8 integrated graphics. Now the system we purchased, and the one that we're reviewing, is the 8-core 16-thread AMD Ryzen 7 5800U, which includes the Radeon RX Vega 8 integrated graphics. We've got 16 gigs of RAM running at 4266 megahertz. We've got a Gen 3 1TB NVMe SSD, which is partitioned in a 500 gig for the OS and 500 gig for games. Now, you can change this out if you wanted to, and you can order this online with a 2TB NVMe should you want to. However, if you want to upgrade it yourself, you're gonna have to remove the cooling fans to get to the NVMe to change that out. Now, when you do this, you obviously must reset the device completely and reinstall Windows on it, which we have done, and it is not the most intuitive thing in the world, but for 2 terabytes of storage, is it worth it? Well, that's for you to decide. Oh, you also get Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5, which is awesome, by the way, especially the Wi-Fi 6 thing. Now, this thing comes with an absolutely massive battery at 15,300 milliamps. That is compatible with the OneXPlayer's protocol fast charging system, in which the device we found fully charged from 3% to 100% in 45 minutes. Oh, and it stays charged on planes when plugged in, at least on Delta and Alaska, which we've used it on both of those airlines. Now, this is the point in the video where we normally put it through our normal GPU tests for single player games like Tomb Raider or Metro Exodus, or multiplayer games like Warzone or Fortnite, but that's not really what this device is about. It's not really about running AAA titles at basically monster frames per second, given it's running integrated graphics. For instance, we did actually test Shadow the Tomb Raider at 2560 by 1600 on high presets, and we got 19 frames per second. Yes, 19. Now, when we dropped it down to medium presets and kept it on at 2560 by 1600, we got to 25, which is reasonable, not good enough, but we did see it jump, but it's hardly enough to warrant the 2560 by 1600 resolution. So we played around with the settings, and we found more that 1280 by 720 is the best resolution to play most of the games on. We saw numbers in FPS range from 30 to the mid 40s at most times. Playable for sure, but not near that 60 frame per second mark that we so covet. Metro Exodus, which is such an intensive game, and we turned the turbo switch on for this, with no ray tracing on and its AMD integrated graphics at 1280 by 720, with medium settings, we were able to get 27 frames per second, even with turbo on. Okay, so let's start talking about games that we actually care about, like for instance Jedi Fallen Order, which we saw a very respectable frame rate at 55 during our gameplay at 1280 by 720p on high settings. Now, while there was some slight stuttering at graphically intensive points of the gameplay felt otherwise smooth. And again, we're playing it high, so there's obviously some things you can change if you wanted to get it north of 60 and have it stay buttery smooth. Now, for multiplayer games, we tested games such as Apex and Fortnite, and the results here were pretty good. Resolution again set to 1200 by 800 with the lowest possible visual settings for the highest FPS. We saw the following. For Apex Legends, we saw an average of 55 frames per second. Again, at low visual settings, not 60, but the gameplay still felt rather smooth even with the lower FPS. It's good enough to play a few rounds if you're just basically on the go and you want to play some Apex on your OneXPlayer. For Fortnite, we saw an average of 64 frames per second with the integrated graphics, and no surprise here, Fortnite runs with pretty much no gas and on a potato. So if you're wanting to play Fortnite and you want it north of 60, this is actually a great portable device for Fortnite. Now, there were other games we tested, such as Forza and the cult classic What Remains of Edith Finch. And with Forza, we were getting a steady frame per second of 45 to 48 on 1280 by 800, and on old Eddie Finch, we saw FPS in the 60s, and the game isn't actually that intensive. And this is important, and we'll talk a little about it a little bit later. Now, finally, we tested Minecraft, and to be honest, the gameplay on Minecraft was just as good as it was on Switch or PC. No stutters, capped at 60 FPS, and we were able to play absolutely smoothly. Okay, let's be perfectly clear. We love the OneXPlayer and everything it can do. But if you're looking for a portable gaming device that you can get massive frames on, then you might want to look elsewhere, like a laptop, because you're not going to get that on this, and you're not going to get it on the Steam Deck. Also, you got to be honest about the battery life. It's not going to be as good as the Steam Deck either, sitting at 2 hours on its own. And the thing is that this is more powerful than a Steam Deck. Now, of course, you can change brightness, Wi-Fi, etc. to get that number up, but we felt like the safest thing to tell you is it's about 2 hours. The one thing that these numbers don't tell you is just the story of how cool this thing really is. See, what I wanted, and the expectations I had going in, is to play specific games like Mass Effect, Tunic, Teamfight Tactics, and Elden Ring, as well as similarly less graphically intensive games. See, the one thing that is hard about these things is they aren't as straightforward as like your regular PC, and you need to pay attention to what runs well and what doesn't. However, with the popularity of the Steam Deck, it's going to be getting a whole lot better with developers like CD Projekt Red making settings that are ideal for the Steam Deck, and therefore will also be ideal for the OneXPlayer, given the resolution is higher and the hardware more powerful on these devices. Also, if you're worried about how hot this thing is going to be in your hands, don't be. The cooling really is magical here, and even after hours of gameplay, it's cold to the touch, and unless you're putting your hands directly over the fan ports like a knob, you aren't going to be feeling any of that heat. Also, you get the added benefit, because this is native Windows, of Xbox Game Cloud, which Guess what? Runs natively, no issue whatsoever. And this is essentially an Xbox controller plugged into a portable PC that has the perfect integration for both standard PC Game Pass titles and any games you would stream via xCloud, or better yet, even NVIDIA GeForce Now services. And PC Game Pass is perfect for this thing, by the way, because a ton of their titles that are released, like Citizen Sleeper or Dead Cells, Hades, Tunic, and a lot of the classic games like Full Throttle, are all games that I'm playing right now that don't have huge hardware requirements and run absolutely great on this system. Now the big question is, do I recommend this? And is it worth the purchase? And unfortunately, it's just not that easy to answer. See, the reason this review took so long to do is because we kept hoping we could get this thing up against the juggernaut that is the Steam Deck and really understand which is better and why. Because with a price tag of $14.49, and it's on sale a lot, but let's just use that price, for a 16GB and 1TB versus $649 for the 512GB Steam Deck, that's a big jump. And we'd love to have a direct comparison in time for our review, which don't worry, we're still gonna do because you need to know that information. So given that, would I recommend it? And the answer is, if you have the money, travel, or need a portable PC for gaming and want something magical that just works out of the box, then yes. You have a lot of flexibility with this device that you don't have with the Steam Deck. Things like resolutions to go up and down to, native Windows 11, Turbo, and of course, native access to all the PC gaming platforms, not just Steam. We don't see really any issues with it, and honestly, I really love it. The price, it's a bit hard to swallow, but I've seen it on sale with as close to $1,000, but that's still quite a bit more than the original. But that's pretty close to what people are spending on the most expensive iPhones right here for mobile gaming and computing on the go. So I can see where one notebook is coming from with this price. But here's the deal. It's a powerful handheld, and as FSR and other similar technologies coming from Intel and NVIDIA improve, I expect it to make devices like this even more magical. So, what did you think? I don't know if this was helpful at all, but tell us what you think and maybe win a little cash in the process. First and foremost, you need to leave a quality comment down below along with liking and subscribing to the channel. Now, when I say quality comment, it doesn't need to be positive, it just needs to be something you liked or didn't like about the video, what surprised you, etc. about the OneXPlayer or the video in general. Just not, I deserve to win and can you send me one of your OneXPlayers or something similarly lame. You also need to ensure we have a way to reach you via your YouTube profile, like your email. You need to put your email in your YouTube profile because that's how we notify people, because we will be giving away $25 to one lucky comment below that is worldwide as long as they can accept PayPal or Venmo. So what did you guys think of the OneXPlayer? Now that you've seen the review, is this something you're actually interested in? What do you think of the price? Do you think native Windows is actually a boost? And what would you play on this device if you were going to get one? We would love to know all that down in the comments below. Now while you're down there, make sure you slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so you get a notification each and every time we post a new video right here on Robeytech. Did you know we have a live stream channel for special builds and events? Check out Robeytech Live down in the description below so you can like and subscribe to that channel and know when we go live. Do you have questions about the OneXPlayer or any other tech-related questions or build questions? Then check out our amazing Discord server filled with other tech and PC enthusiasts that love to share their thoughts and ideas on these very subjects. Are you looking for cheap tech? Then check out @Robeytech.com or @RobeyTechDeals on Twitter. We have our guy Tom scouring the internet for the best deals on all things from PC components to TVs to games or little systems like this. Finally, you can follow me and my team on all the other socials @Robeytech absolutely everywhere. We hope you enjoyed this video and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.